David had quite a career as an amateur magician. From the time he was maybe 10 or 12 or so, he was fascinated with magic. And he subscribed to magazines, and he joined clubs, and he learned magic tricks, and he built or bought some of the apparatus that you need for the illusions. And David was always an organizer of neighborhood games we played in the street. And he and his friends organized magic shows that were held in backyards. And leaflets would be passed out all around the neighborhood saying, "Come to the big magic show, 5 cents admission." The one that sticks out in my mind was held, I believe, in Clifford Smith's backyard. And there were 2 problems with that show. We had a pretty good crowd. One was that Clifford's rather large, shaggy dog had left piles of dog shit all over the back lawn, which the members of our audience were stepping in. The other problem was that the main event of this magic show was sawing a boy in half. This was accomplished by getting 2 orange crates or wooden boxes and nailing them together and getting one boy into one box with his head sticking out and the other boy in the other box with his feet sticking out and then sawing between them. Well, I was one of the 2 boys. And I don't remember whether I was the head or the feet, but I remember that the head was comfortable. He crawled into this box before everybody got there, and he was comfortable with his head down. The other boy crawled into the other box, and he was only comfortable with his feet pointing up. I seem to remember that we went ahead with the show. This was years before the Americans for Disability Act, when it would become illegal to saw in half a boy who had that body consistency. But the trick went on amid laughter and jeers, and I think that was the last big magic show that was held in the backyard. But David went on with the magic tricks for years, and he would give shows at church gatherings and other places. He had a great flair for showmanship. He was probably a rather shy boy, but on stage he could really bring it off. And something else I was going to say about that. Doesn't matter. What I was going to say was that at family gatherings, the younger cousins, because all the cousins were younger than David, they would flock around him to see the magic tricks. And he would have the latest card trick or a sleight of hand, and they were just enchanted by that. Now, on public speaking, I think it's accurate to say that David got his start as a speaker for the temperance movement. And I followed David in a lot of things, and so did Sis. Followed him through school, followed him into other activities, and we followed him into the traveling temperance talking teams, the TTTT. This was organized by the Youth Temperance Council, which was the youth organization of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the WCTU. And they held speaking contests in which 5 or 6 young people would get up. We'd travel around from church to church around Southern California, and each young person would give a speech denouncing alcohol and all its evils. And then they were very serious. There was judging, and a winner was declared among the students, among the speakers. Well, David won at each level until he finally had a little pin that the WCTU gave out with a small diamond on it. And that was as far as you could go in the traveling temperance talking teams. But it was wonderful public speaking experience. And David left the WCTU behind, but he went on to be quite a public speaker. Photography. I take credit because David has at some point given me credit for having something to do with his career as a striking photographer, outstanding photographer. When I was 20, I did one of the first things I ever did that wasn't following in David's footsteps. I went to Mexico for a summer session at the University of Guadalajara. And I had a sort of a glorified box camera, and I was fascinated by Mexico. And I walked the streets and I wandered the public marketplace and just shot pictures of everything. And when I came back, David said he was so jealous of my photos that he went out and got a Kodak Retina 3 camera, which was a pretty good camera, and started taking his own pictures, developing film, printing his own pictures. He had to teach himself how to do it, but he began taking striking pictures. He went on from the Retina to eventually a Leica, a Nikon, Canons. Didn't you have a Leica once? All right. You skipped the Leica. I thought you had something with a rangefinder. Anyway, he has long since surpassed me in the equipment department and in picture taking, but I'm glad to have had something to do with it. We went our separate ways in a sense. I went into the Army. I was drafted in 1956, and I don't remember the timing exactly, but it was about the time David was becoming a conscientious objector. And I felt at the time, and I feel now, that David made the right decision morally and intellectually, and I went along with the flow. I wasn't a pacifist, but I knew that he was right. But I didn't have the courage to buck the system, so I went ahead and served my draft period. But that has not separated us in other ways. We have always been close, and we still are close. I started life standing on the bunk bed, looking up to David. And I'm still looking up to him.